Good morning, and welcome to a very special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and this has been a very busy week, and this is going to be a very busy weekend. I know a lot of people are going to be supporting a lot of the May Day events that's going on today for workers and workers' rights, and so many people are going to be celebrating that at a variety of different places. I'm also with one of the largest constituency groups in America under the AFL-CIO called A. Philip Randolph Institute. And so we're going to be down there with the folks down there celebrating at 4 o'clock today. And I know there's different celebrations that are going to be held. One of the main ones that a lot of people are going to be going to is over at the refurbished train station down there in Corktown. So wherever you celebrate your May Day celebrations at today, we just hope that you have a very memorable one, as well as a peaceful and a safe one, as well. But before we get started, too, just wanted to say that one of our colleagues here at WHPR TV, Kimberly Clemens, who has the show called Chats and Chuckles, wants you to keep her husband, Randall, in your thoughts and prayers. And so again, she has a show that comes on every Tuesday from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock called Chats and Chuckles. So she's not been able to do the show only because of her husband, but she did ask me today to ask you to keep her husband, Randall, lifted up in your thoughts and prayers. So as you celebrate today, the first day of May, and I guess because of the fact that we will never ever be able to go and repeat this day, I have some people that are very prominent in the community, and I think that there's very little introduction that needs to be said, especially to this young lady that's sitting to the right of me. And when I see her and I have her on the show, she's like just a regular, She's like the what I want to say, the Ed McMahon to Johnny Carson. She's probably here in the Highland Park area. I think everybody knows the Honorable Alexis Ramsey. And
Good morning.
good morning, Alexis. And I'm still just so in awe because of the fact that we've done two things together, two big events together.
2 days in a
2
row.
days in a row. So I'm very pleased that we have had this opportunity. And again, my prayers go out to your mom and dad,
Thank you.
As well too.
Thank you. They're doing better today, so praise report, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, today is a good day. So
And that's a great thing.
Yes.
And to your right, I should let you introduce her since you two are becoming good bosom buddies and stuff now. Since
Absolutely.
we came on the set this morning, and I think I couldn't even give you the word edgewise because you and Summer were just talking, just back and forth. So I'll let you introduce.
All right. Well, I have the honor of sitting next to the wonderful Summer, part of the Women's Commission here for Wayne County. So Summer, she's a beautiful young woman from the spirit out. We had the opportunity to meet each other about a week ago, but you would think that we've known each other for years. There's just this spirit that just bounces off of you, and you could just tell that God runs through you. So I would like to introduce the wonderful Summer, and then you could continue telling everybody about yourself.
Thank
And
you.
mention too about the event yesterday too,
Yes,
please.
that's what
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So I am Summer Moore Crawford. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Thank you, Alexis, for the warm introduction. Basically, what you see is what you get. I am the type of person that is always love and unity when we meet. And so I'm full because the Wayne County Women's Commission,
Yes.
that consists of 19, including myself, amazing women. We held the Wayne County Resource Fair, and most definitely, first of all, want to thank God, but thank WHPR for the wonderful support. All the leaders, our community leaders, the commissioners, the community showed out. We had over 600 attendees. The event was from 9:30 to 3, and it was like it's time to go home, but people were still trying to come in. We had over 100 vendors. We appreciate the vendors that showed up, the vendors who said we were just going to show up and who brought their own tables and said we're here. That's love. That's when the community comes together because the need was great. I also want to give a special thanks to my fellow Wayne County Women's Commission women because they did a surprise honor to me yesterday as the chair emeritus, former chair of the Wayne County Women's Commission from the term of 2023 to 2025. 2005. This is when you haven't had any sleep. 2023 to 2025.
And then you're still choked up because of that honor that they gave you as well.
I am. When I tell you I cried, I bawled, the ugly cry. Woke up this morning and just thank God for it. So thank you again for all the support, the vendors. And yes, we'll be back at it again next year. We took over the entire upstairs of WC3D, Northwest Campus. Thank you to Spectrum. We had the shred truck, all of the health screening vendors, health and wellness, numerous of home ownership opportunities, the bank funders that showed up, the community organizations that showed up, the safety and protection that showed up. We really showed out with the gun safety in the community, whether you want to sign up for classes or just learn more. Our veterans showed up and showed out. Thank you so much. But again, women and the community came together, and we look forward to doing amazing in 2027.
And then also, we don't want to be remiss. We've got to mention the recognition to the young lady, and I say the young lady, who's 100 years young.
Okay, Highland Park, you have a jewel. Mother Rich.
Yes.
Claire Rich. She will be 100 years old on July 6th. And we're going to celebrate big. She's our honorary. She's our 20th member of the Wayne County Women's Commission. Shout out to her daughter, KJ, known as Catherine Joyner. We are so excited. We honored her as well yesterday. She's still moving. She's an attorney. She'll be, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, she'll be over at Greater Grace for an amazing event. But thank you again, Mother Rich, for all that you've done. The mentorship, the leadership, not only to myself, but the women across the nation, because she does travel. She's still working with attorneys now who are up and coming. So to our chair, Douglas, Cynthia Douglas was also recognized yesterday, and to WC3D, they were honored because of the leadership. We appreciate our partnership again with everyone. Last but not least, to all of the voting organizations, Detroit Downriver, APRI, Women League of Voters, everyone who spoke about voter education, the importance of it, showed up and showed out. I noticed that a lot of new voters did sign up yesterday,
Absolutely.
which was amazing. So that was also a task. So when I tell you it was a wealth of full knowledge in the house, we made it happen. So again, we're looking forward to so many things, so many amazing things next year.
And I think those bags that people had collected didn't have enough room in those bags to take all of the resources that were there.
Yes, we laughed about that. I said, we're going to have wagons next year. But I do, when you have so much information like that, please take the time to go through it. Don't discard it, because it's going to be, if it's not useful for you, it's useful for someone else. So please take the material from any resource fair, whether it's ours or anyone that you attend. Please take the material, research it, review it, and it could be beneficial to you or someone in your community or within someone in your household.
And and that was a great thing too, because it was really an opportunity, even though it was a women's resource fair, but there was still a lot of men that still came to partake of the resources, and then to take the resources home to their wives, to their daughters, to their grandmothers, and other women in their in their families. So again, it was just a great event, well attended. It took me almost 20 minutes to get out the parking lot.
Yes.
I mean, it was crowded. I'm sitting up here, but everybody was so gracious, and that's the one thing that I like with events like that, because people were even though you were lined up in the rows trying to get out of the parking lot,
Yes.
but people were so courteous, letting people get through, cut through, and that kind of thing. So again, to everyone that attended, to everyone that were vendors, it was a great thing.
Thank you. And I wanted to say, we would not be amazing without our wonderful volunteers. And I'm going to tell you, Miss Tashana was on our volunteer. She's a part of the Wayne County Women's Commission. And we definitely fed our vendors. But I have to give a shout out to the entire volunteer team because they were on it. Everyone was courteous, happy. And again, thank you to the men that came out. I know, Alexis, you had a chance to show up. And Darwin, please, if you can share your thoughts from a male standpoint. And Alexis, that was you coming and sitting and watching. Can you just share a little bit of feedback? And then I know we have to move on. But thank you so much again.
But just really quick, before we do move on, let's talk
yes.
about Quentin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, I should let you introduce Quentin too, Alexis,
go
since
ahead.
you're doing
Go
such a
ahead.
great job.
Quentin.
But one thing I just want to say, because Quentin Lott is with us this morning, because one of the things that this is one of my fraternity brothers, and we're in the oldest fraternity in America, Alpha Phi Alpha, and we were started in 1906. So every time when people see the 06 behind our names, that's what that designates, 06. And we want to make certain that Quentin is he teaches African American studies at WC3D. And that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, was to talk about there's a holiday that's coming up in July, but there's another holiday that's coming up in June. Some people celebrate the holiday in July, but then there's others that celebrate the holiday in June. And that's one of the things that we want to bring recognition to those that understand about why they celebrate the holiday in June called Juneteenth. And we talk about freedom, and we talk about why people need to be able to realize about their freedoms and why people don't have the freedom that they would think that they would have, even though they've been here for all of their lives. But still in all, freedom is not free, and people need to recognize that.
Absolutely.
But we have Quentin Lott, frat brother, that is here as well. And Quentin, I just want you to tell, just give a quick little snippet about what you do and what you teach there at WC3D before we get into our conversation.
Sure. Thank you, Darwin. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Summer.
Absolutely.
So at WC3D, I teach African American Studies as well as business. So the course I teach is our universal quest for freedom and rights. As you already know, we're under attack again with the Voting Rights Act, but it also gives us an opportunity to talk about how we've progressed over time per the Constitution. And if you think about the Constitution, it is a doctrine full of holes and contradictions, meaning that when we were enslaved, we were counted as 3/5 a person. They also had a Fugitive Slave Act. But when you look at the Constitution saying that you have the right to pursue happiness and freedom, you're not really free. And if that was the case, you wouldn't need a Civil Rights Act or a Voting Rights Act. So that's part of what I teach and what we go through. We go through a walk through time. We talk about not only the transatlantic slave trade, but we also talk about the marches in Alabama, across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the signing of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, key actors in that movement. So it's more than just Dr. King. It's more than
Yes.
Medgar Evers. It was the death and the pictures of Emmett Till in the
Yes.
south side of Chicago. It's also about what Malcolm X had done during the movement with the Nation of Islam, and also making sure that we as black folks are properly represented. It's also Adam Clayton Powell,
That's right.
another one of our good fraternity brothers. It's also Thurgood Marshall,
Yes.
and also the Legal Defense Fund from the NAACP, which is still significant to this day. So
Well, I want you just real quick, Quentin, also just kind of bring us up to snuff, and then I'll get Alexis
Okay.
and Summers' comments as well. But if you can kind of go into a little bit of what's going on when it comes down to the people that are really upset because of the Supreme Court ruling, pertaining to the case down in Louisiana. Can you kind of just kind of give
Yeah.
a quick snippet about what's going on? Because
Sure.
there's a lot of people that don't understand
Well,
what's happening.
So one thing that was happening under that case, or under the ruling Supreme Court, Justice Alito actually attacked one section of the Voting Rights Act. So I won't go too much in depth, but it goes down to pre-clearance. And that pre-clearance allows them to redraw the district lines. So another piece of that, as well as that being attacked, Voting Rights Act, and is that if we're discriminated against and we have to go through the Justice Department, it makes it very difficult for us to challenge any of those discriminatory acts when it comes to voting. Where we have to be diligent about going out and voting, and understanding what our rights are. So allowing the Supreme Court to go out and legislate, because it's not their job as part of the three branches of government, their job is to tell you if it's constitutional or not. They actually legislated in this action here, and with that pre-clearance, it actually put us in a trick bag because we're losing our rights slowly but surely. And it basically, you have attacked the crown jewel of the civil rights movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alexis, do you want to?
Well, yes. So, so I'll just bounce off of what Quentin was saying. So basically, what happened is that now we are not able to fight the lines, right?
Right.
And so you look at Texas, who redrew this map,
Mhm.
and so what basically the Supreme Court said is, hey, we're going to uphold this racially discriminatory map. You are not going to be able to come back and say, hey, well, we believe more black representation should be here. So what the Supreme Court is trying to say, hey, we took out race. But what they don't understand is race is very important when it comes to showing representation. And so after Texas, after the Supreme Court did what they did around Texas map, that's when Louisiana
Yes.
jumped in. And Louisiana is currently right now in the middle of an election. And they said, hold up, we're going to stop this election because we want to now redraw the lines based on the Supreme Court decision, which had two black representatives in Louisiana. And so now they're going to draw those two representatives out. So the question goes to, are we fighting as African Americans for African American leadership, or are we going to fight for democratic power? Because the difference is right now is that, yes, we can draw more Democratic seats, like using California and New York and other places that are talking about, hey, in California, they're saying, okay, you all want to do this? Well, we will redraw all of the lines in California, all 52 seats, and we'll make every seat Democratic. But again, does that mean, so my question right now is, are we fighting for African American seats or African American leadership, let me say that, in Congress and other places? Because this is not just national. It will go from national to state to local.
Yes.
So when the Supreme Court weighs in, we have to understand that. But also, again, is it democratic power we're seeking, or is it more African? Is it representation of people that look like us in these seats? So that's kind of where we are when it comes to this redistricting.
Well, I think the thing is, Summer, you about to say?
Yes. You're exactly right, Lexus. It's going to trickle down to the states, to local. We cannot control what's going on in Washington, D.C., but what we can do, we need to galvanize, and unite locally and start to really educate what has happened. We are in a system where people have turned the TV off and they don't know what has happened. I have relatives who are down south and they are cringing because Florida is like, hey, we're about to start drawing out and, drawing our lines. But you have so many people African Americans, who are dynamic leaders. And it's almost like everyone who wears the D as far as Democrats, are you really a Democrat? Or is it about leadership? And at this point in time, this is scary. This is hurtful. I have seen more people crying, and I wish that I could remember the representative's name. Yesterday was an African American woman who held up a cloth that she remembered when one of her relatives signed to vote with an X. I know that there's so much more to this that's coming down the pipeline. But, Mr. Lott, I would like to also ask, as you are over at WC3D, and I know we have our HBCUs, our youth, our millennials, our Gen Zs, have they started to react to this?
I can tell you, when I start my class, first thing I ask them, two things. Are you registered to vote? And do you watch the news? And it's interesting, this new generation does not really watch the news. It's microwave. It's TikTok. It's, and I explain that there's a lot of things that go on, especially when it comes to the government and how it impacts you economically and socially and personally. When you're talking about your civil rights, your natural rights, your personal rights, all those things are taken away from you because you're not paying attention to what's going on. And, it's a lot of distractions that are going on. And I've made it perfectly clear, especially in my African American Studies class, that we are here because of the blood, sweat, effort, tears, beating, lynching of our ancestors. And for this to happen is a direct insult to all the efforts that they've put forward, all the efforts that they've stood for. And I was telling Mr. Griffin earlier, I said, I feel I have the right, and we all have the right to be freedom fighters. We all should be fighting for our freedom. I felt that after the passage of the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, we kind of stopped.
Yes.
We didn't keep the foot on the gas pedal. Mr. Griffin laughed earlier. I gave an old comedian comment, Robin Harris, and I said, we don't die, we multiply. So I feel I feel that we need to do that. When you look at areas like Black Bottom, which we lost, Black Wall Street, we need to build, we need to fortify, we need to have our own. Our community is very diverse. It's very great. And one of the statements I made to my class, when they say make America great again, America already is great.
Yes.
And I can tell you why. You can go anywhere in the country and they'll see you as an American. You can be black, Asian, Latino, anything. Now what makes America divided, which is not united, is when we say we're African American, Jewish American, Italian American. You're an American. That's our ethnic background, and we should cherish that. But in the same token, we are American, and that's what unites us. That's what defines us. That's what makes America great. There's no need to remake something that's already good.
And I'll tell you this, Quentin, I stand on that, what you're
Okay.
saying, because, again, that is the division within the country, right? We
right.
know it's religion and race.
Right.
But I don't care where you go. I've traveled across countries. When you go to Africa, they're African. When you go to Europe, they're European. Only here in America is where we see black, we see white, and we see other color.
Absolutely.
So again, when in that check box on the application, when they ask me, I always put American. I always check other, and I put American because that's what I am.
Absolutely.
And so when we begin to have this conversation, we also need to talk about how not only are you registered to vote, but are you actually voting? Because at the end of the day, you ask why your representatives don't come back to your community. You ask why, because we don't vote, we don't participate. So when we're only voting at 10%, 15%, I was looking at Louisiana numbers, African Americans only vote at 17%. This is why things are happening to us.
Right.
They do everything they can to tell us why we shouldn't vote, how our vote's not counted, but those things are not true. That's the way to suppress us as a people and get our people not to get out here to vote.
Right.
So this season and moving forward in every season, not only are you registered to vote, but have you voted? I need you to go to the poll. We have to get our numbers up. If we were voting in the 30 percentile, even 40 percentile, things would change for us. Right? Because now we are part of that voting system. But when we're voting at 10%, they don't care. They look at us and they know that, you know what, I only need a certain percentage, 2 or 3% of that black vote out of that city in order for me to win. And that's how they look at us. And so if we were voting at 50%, even here in my own little town, we only voted about 15, maybe 17% in a presidential election. Right? So we have to begin to say, when are we going to hold our own selves accountable? When are we going to hold our people accountable for not participating? Because you want to complain all day long. I get calls all day about complaining. But if you're not going to participate, then don't complain about it.
I wanted to say something about that. And thank you so much, because that's the type of passion that we need out here in the streets, in the communities. I like to say love has no color, but people put a color to the word love. But what is also interesting in all of this is knowing your history. Okay, so this morning I watched the news and I was, and I did scroll some of the social media platforms because I'm quite disturbed about what's going on. Having relatives and lineage from down south. I remember, as they say, down through the years, I was taken on a journey where I was listening to a rabbit hole of how dogs were sicked on people as they stood in voting lines, or how they were beat down or even shot at, if I could say that. But people are discouraged. I also went down a rabbit hole and I thought about our history and how it was erased. About 2 months ago, end of February, I had a relative who passed away. The only thing he wanted was to bring the family together. And unfortunately, he didn't have the opportunity to do that while he was living. But when he passed, I was introduced, I was 2:00 in the morning, to Ancestry.com. And I know they don't have any sponsorship here today, but what I've learned in that research is when I was tracking back my lineage in history, I realized that my great-grandmother came from Alabama, but a lot of the records were burned.
And see, that's what makes it so bad. But we got to take a quick break, and we will be right back. So stay tuned. This is a very important conversation that we're having, because the main thrust of this conversation is to vote.
Yes.
And that, as Alexis, as Summer, as Quentin is saying, we've got to get out and vote. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Watkins Broadcasting is going worldwide. Now you can watch Detroit's own WHPR on your TV from anywhere in the world. No matter where you are, you can stay in the know with WHPR TV and Roku. You can get your easy-to-install Roku box from wherever you shop for your entertainment gear. Once your Roku box is connected to your TV and internet, go to the channel store on the home menu of the Roku box. Enter WHPR TV in the search engine and add it to your channels. That's it. That's all you need to get the best in entertainment, news, and talk, no matter where you are. Roku brings all of your favorites to your TV. Netflix, Hulu Plus, Crackle, HBO Go, and now WHPR TV, Detroit Live.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
Muscles, joints, or feet tired, achy, or distressed? Tried everything? Ringmaster Rubbing Oil is a vintage topical pain reliever, trusted for over 70 years, with a rich formula for the treatment of stubborn aches and pains. Packaged in a glass bottle for purity, our liquid can also be used in warm water for foot soaks and compresses. A little goes a long way. Try our time-tested formula, available in several sizes.
Make a donation to WHPR TV and receive 2 2-ounce bottles of Ringmaster Rubbing Oil for $25. Call 313-868-6612.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
If you enjoy the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
All media platforms are engaged. Copy.
Get ready to launch your show or product.
Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that.
Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
Good morning, and again, welcome to a special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are joined on the set by none other than the author and also fraternity brother. Phi Alpha's in the house, Mr. Anthony Brogdon. Anthony, welcome to Truth to Power today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wanted you to just mention before we get into the conversation we're talking about the voting rights and also about Juneteenth, but also wanted you to mention in terms of you've written a couple of books,
right? Just
to mention your books that you've written and how people can acquire your books real quick.
Okay, well, thank you for that plug. My book is a Black Business book, which has become America's #1 black business history book. It talks about the rise of black business in America. It talks about enslaved black people who own businesses, enslaved black people who went to college, how we got our freedom in all the various ways. And Juneteenth is mentioned in the book. The second book is titled That's My Land, on the history of black towns and settlements across America, how we owned land, going back to a gentleman by the name of Anthony Johnson, who owned 250 acres in 1621. And then the third is a coloring book. I want kids and adults to use it also to hear the stories of 30 rich African Americans that lived in the 1800s. And you can get these books on my website, which is businessintheblack.net. Business, INTHEBLACK.net. Thank you so very much for letting me do that.
Appreciate it. That's what we do. That's all we do.
Yeah.
When I have anybody come on, I have to make sure to give them their props.
Oh, yeah.
When
I
they
like
come
the
on,
plug now.
because I appreciate you coming on the show.
You can plug
and
me
taking time
anytime.
in your
I don't
day.
have to be here, and you can plug me.
Appreciate that. But I want to also, get to our topic too about Juneteenth. We know we've got a lot of people that will be celebrating July the 4th. There'll be people that don't understand what July 4th represents to them. But then there's people now that are now made aware of, as you mentioned, Anthony, in your book, and Quentin, I know you talk about it. Alexis, I know you researched it, is a holiday called Juneteenth. And if either of you can just explain what Juneteenth is all about.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start. So Juneteenth started, basically, it started June 19th, 1865, when General Gordon Granger rode into Galveston, Texas, and told the black folks that were working that they were freed per the proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, which was actually signed almost 2 years prior to General Granger going down and explaining to the folks that they were free. Now, interesting enough, because they were free, they did not know they were free. They were still working as slaves in Texas, which is almost remote enough that they didn't get the news that the Union won the war and all the enslaved people were free. But interesting enough, in that situation, when they were told by General Granger, there was a proclamation that was it's called General Order Number 3. And General Order Number 3 has some key points. So, first of all, it tells the slaves they were free. Now, slavery was already abolished after the Civil War per the 13th Amendment. So that said slavery's over with. But in that structure, in General Order Number 3, it said that, yes, you are free as slaves, but you need to return back to your living quarters and work for wages. So that was the birth of sharecropping, which is still another form of slavery. Because now I only give you a little bit, but I'm handling the harvest and the land for the larger territory of that landowner, but I only get a little bit of it. Then the other piece of it also stated that the freed men were not allowed to go and hang out or allowed to congregate around the military post at all. So just along with the labor structure of that General Order Number 3 was significant enough to say that, yes, you are free, but you got to work for minimum wages, which is really another form of slavery. But because of Juneteenth, and because the folks in Galveston, Texas were informed much later that they were free, this is probably one of the longest celebrations to celebrate our freedom from being enslaved. And there's celebrations that are going on throughout the area, Metro Detroit area. There's a big one out in Southfield as well that happens every year. And we celebrate our freedom. It's Emancipation Day. And we already know that President Biden signed it into law. So that was also very significant to also honor and also represent those people who were not informed, but to also let us all know that we are free. And per the 13th Amendment, slavery does no longer exist. It's outlawed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, my chime in on this, I've been there.
Yeah.
To Galveston Island. And it was 2 years ago I spoke there for their Juneteenth at a place called the Nia Cultural Center. I was real excited. Galveston is an island about 50 miles off the coast of Houston, Texas. I didn't know that. And so I flew into Houston, drove all the way to Galveston, and where this Nia Cultural Center is located is right next to a parking lot where General Gordon Granger read that order. Across the street was an auction site that is now a souvenir shop. And down the one street next to the parking lot is where the port, where the slave ships docked. And so when I walked down there, I could hear the voices of the pain and anguish that they had gone through over those many years. But then also I could hear the jubilation in the park saying that we're free. And he's correct on many of the points relative to how it was a glorious moment. One of the other things I'll add is that there was a group of colored troop that went with Gordon Granger, that passed out the leaflets, posted them on the doors, and so on and so forth. And the 13th Amendment, and this is, just in addition to what he said, was actually some months after Juneteenth. And so it didn't end slavery itself. Even in that proclamation itself, it was just for those who were enslaved in states that were seceding from the Union. And so there were many more instances that they still, until the 13th Amendment was ratified, that there still was the institution. And the enslavers didn't say, all right, I'm cool with it. And, he said that's where sharecropping came from, and so many skirmishes. There were still states who did not ratify the 13th Amendment until many years later. But nonetheless, it's a glorious moment. Galveston is a beautiful town now. There are communities that have grown out of that. One in particular titled the 1867 Settlement, which is on a city just on the other side of the little river lake from Galveston called Texas City. And so there was a lot that led up to Juneteenth, but it is to be celebrated that those in that community, and there were hundreds, even maybe thousands of enslaved black people, because they were all imported from out of the Caribbean islands, many of them from Cuba and so on and so forth. And it was a hotbed. And it's just one of the most remote spots in America where slavery was legal.
Wow. Alexis.
Absolutely. And, it just highlights the delayed justice, right? And that's what we're looking at right now, delayed justice. That's happening across the country today. And so we have to understand the significance of Juneteenth is saying, hey, we're no longer delaying justice, we're demanding justice. We're going to participate in these upcoming events. And we have to get out here and start educating our people and all people about really what Juneteenth means. So I'm excited to hear more about the history of Juneteenth from both of you brothers, because at the end of the day, delayed justice does not mean justice denied, right?
Okay. And it was so interesting too, Alexis, Anthony, Quinn, that a lot of people did not want to be free when they told them that they were free.
Well, it wasn't that they didn't want to.
Yeah,
they didn't believe it. They didn't believe it, right? Because it hadn't rolled down, right? It hadn't come down. So when you come in and saying, "Hey, I'm free," and you have that slave mentality, because that we can go back to when we want to talk about, anyway, when you start talking about slave mentality, and you come and say, "Hey, you're free. You can go now." You have that mentality of, where do I go? What do I do?
And that's exactly what it was
the
boiling
fear,
down to.
right? And so it was the fear of knowing that now I no longer have to answer to this master or this slave master, and I now have the right to make my own decisions. And so when you go from being locked up, and it's no different than our returning citizens, right? Because it's the same mentality. They lock them in these facilities. They don't do anything that actually rehabilitate. I'm not going to say all, but a majority of the facilities don't do anything to actually rehabilitate. So now you have confined me into this small space for so long, and now you say I'm free, but you just let me out here like a wild animal. And so that's kind of the part of justice delayed, right? Is that when justice is delayed, when we finally do have the answer of saying, hey, I'm free, I'm able to be a free thinker, do what I want to do, you still have that fear and you still have that slave mentality mindset. It's no different than what Willie Lynch said, right? And I mean, right now, 400 years later, we still are locked in that slave mentality. And he made it perfectly clear. You put the old against the young, the light against the dark, those simple things, and you will keep them enslaved mentally. And so that to me is what Juneteenth 1865 Galveston, Texas represents, is that they were fear of knowing that now I'm free and being able to be a free thinker.
But you also have to keep in mind too, the period of Reconstruction, that whole era. And at that particular time, you start seeing black folks progressing. When Congressman James Clyburn was here, he talked about his book, The First Eight.
Okay.
And he said it was 94 years later, and he became the 9th congressman in South Carolina. So during that period of Reconstruction, you had 8 black men that were congressmen in that area. But it was Rutherford B. Hayes that did the Great Compromise of 1877, where he pulled the troops, because he had to win the election in the South. He won by 1 vote, but he pulled the troops out the South. So now when we talk about ushering in sharecropping, now you ushered in Jim Crow. So now you're talking about freedom delayed. Well, now you got freedom not only delayed, but now it's suppressed. Because now Jim Crow starts to grow. And then we have segregation. And then we got whites-only bathrooms, black-only bathrooms, and you can only eat here, and you're in the back of the bus. All these things started to come around. And if it wasn't for our ancestors, and we can even say precursors, my fraternity brothers know what that means, but the precursors. But if it wasn't for them and their courage, we wouldn't be where we're at today. Unfortunately, we're rolling back because history is being whitewashed.
Project 2025.
Project 2025
is in full effect.
Right. It's being whitewashed. Now, I say, slavery wasn't bad. Transatlantic slave trade was horrific. But it's economic pieces to that. So when you look at Jim Crow, the Emancipation Proclamation, all that, Abraham Lincoln's purpose of actually having black folks fighting in the army, not only to win the war, but his goal was to, keep the Union together because the South was succeeding. The South had power. They had economic power, especially from the business perspective. The most expensive part of operating a business is labor. So I got free labor. I could do whatever I want with free labor. And that's the economic piece that a lot of people don't discuss about our struggle for freedom, because it was all driven by money. So if you look at capitalism in its purest form, it's correct. But capitalism in America is only certain people capitalizing on people that are marginalized, disenfranchised, and underrepresented.
True that.
Yeah, one of the things that you said, Darwin, that I just want to chime on. Let's say if there are 1,000 enslaved black people in the Galveston area, so on and so forth, and 2 of them say, I don't know what to do, and the rest of them say, I'm happy to have my freedom. And then the media says, well, okay, there are 2 people that they happy and they wish they were still enslaved, and then that's what we would focus on. Not the other 998 people that did all they could to escape, hated the institution, did what they could to find a way to get an education, find a way to get some skills so that they knew that because of the belief in God that this would one day be over. So I would think that all of them said, hey, man, I'm in a panic zone as to what to do next. I'm on this island. How do I make something out of myself? But there were so many stories of people that I met there whose ancestors said and made a way for themselves and for their family, and knew that was the best thing possible for them. So, yeah, it was a beautiful thing, and there's a ton of examples of black-owned businesses and communities that grew out of them and their self-sufficiency and survival.
Because that's the thing that I was saying. A lot of people did not know, as you all are saying, that they were free.
Right.
But then the thing is that when they told them that they were free, they were like, what do I do next? Where do I go?
I can understand
They were still so, as you all are saying, they were so accustomed to being told what to do, given a roof over their heads, given food in their stomachs, taking care of their families, that they didn't know how to be self-sufficient. And some went back to the plantations and worked back for the slave owners, even though they were whipped, beaten, all kind of other things. And in some cases, the women were raped. But they went back to that. And just like I still think about the one movie, Shawshank Redemption, where at the end of the movie, towards the end, James Whitmore was released from prison, but then he didn't know what to do when he hung himself in his room. I hate to be giving away the ending to that movie, but a lot of people have seen that movie, and they see it's hard because he did not know what to do about having been released from being institutionalized for all those years, and didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. And I think a little bit of that to The Longest Yard.
Right.
That happened a little bit even in that movie as well. So the point that I'm saying too is that there's some that just did not know. But then I want you all, before we have to wrap the segment up, talk about 40 Acres and a Mule. And what did that represent to a lot of free, black men and black women that were allegedly given that 40 acres and a mule?
Well, have we ever received the 40 acres and a mule?
Have we?
Have we?
No.
No, and that's the point, right?
Yep.
And so when we say 40 acres and a mule is what's still owed to us, right? That's where this reparations piece comes in, saying, hey, this is what we're owed. America would not be America without our ancestors who actually built this country off the backs of our free labor. And so I'll let you guys kind of weigh in on that, but we're still waiting. That's what I look for.
Well, what happened was, and what I found in some of my research is that when the down in the South Carolina and North Carolina in that territory, when the Northern troops came through and they defeated the Southerners in battles and skirmishes and so on and so forth, then they had to have something for the enslaved people to do and go. And then so one of the generals went through and said, okay, well, we're going to give you 40 acres and a mule. And that's where that came from. But and he did do it. There were hundreds of families that got the land. But then what happened was the president who came after Lincoln, they assassinated him, saying, hey, man, you got to go.
That was Andrew Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Andrew Johnson.
No, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln.
I'm saying it came after Lincoln.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, when he came after Lincoln, he says, squash that idea. And let's give the land back to the landowners. So there was still I found there were instances where people were able to take advantage and didn't give the land back for one reason or another. So there was some of those advantages taken that from the people, but we still survived. We still found ways to develop our own communities, and that's what I try to focus in on in my writings and my speeches from a positive perspective. Yeah, not everybody got land and so on and so forth. There was a bunch of hurtful things that the government did. There were a few good things and communities that grew out of that along that South Carolina, North Carolina corridor. But nonetheless, when they ran during the Civil War, we took over, we wore the clothes, we burned the houses, and then they made them come back, and we found other ways to survive.
And I agree with that as well. And just to piggyback on it, when you talk about that land, look at it from a business perspective. You can't make more land. It's finite. It's a finite resource. So as a black community, reparations, we have to define what reparations are and what we need. We've evolved past 40 acres and a mule. Some arguments, I've had numerous conversations, I've done some research as well. Some say maybe we should start looking at having tax-free dollars. That way we can create generational wealth. Because like my parents who grew up in Jim Crow South, they had land. They lost their mineral rights. That's generational wealth. And that's where we as a people, and as Brother Anthony has said, there's some good things that came out of it. We got Black Wall Street, we got Black Bottom, we got all these other great communities that developed out of that, and we have to continue to move forward. So in a lot of ways, do we need 40 acres in the mule? No, not really, but reparation-wise, we have to start creating our own resources. So they say, I want a seat at the table, build your own table. So.
Yeah, well, I'm just hoping, this Juneteenth that we get out in our community, right? We continue to register people to vote, one, and then also getting them to the actual poll and them knowing why it's important for you to vote.
Right.
It's a numbers game. If you don't understand that, when people are running in any election, it's all about the numbers. So if the community shows up, they will show up for your community. The community does not show up, this is why we will continue to be left behind. So it's going to be on us as a people to not only register, but to actually participate in August and actually participate in November. Absolutely. We have to get our numbers up so that these elected officials that are in place can pay attention, listen to what we're requesting, and actually do it. But as long as our numbers stay down and we stay in the 17th percentile, 20th percentile, they will not ever listen to us. So it's on us to really make that change and make that difference.
Spoken like a true elected official, as you are.
Public servant. It's a
and
big
public
difference.
servant, right.
Let's make that perfectly clear.
We got to take another break. I want to thank you three for being so esteemed panelists on this conversation. But that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. We're going to talk about voting and talk about, especially with the three-party system, like with the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Independents. So again, you're not going to want to miss this conversation. Stay tuned.
From the desk of RJ Watkins, this is a WHPR editorial.
I'm Ariana Watkins, and for decades, my father, RJ Watkins, has served our community with quality radio and TV service through WHPR and Roku. Today, I'm proud to stand beside him, continuing the legacy built on trust, innovation, and your support. We're here because of you, and we'll keep bringing you the best now and for generations to come. Thank you for supporting us and growing with us.
This has been a WHPR editorial.
Watch WHPR and TV 33 when you want, where you want, how you want. WHPR is now in your pocket. Download our free app by going to the App Store or Google Play and enter WHPR TV in the search engine. And there we are. You can download WHPR TV or radio. You heard about it. Now come be a part of it. Roku Detroit Worldwide. Approximately 8 million viewers.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Matter. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Watkins Broadcasting is going worldwide. Now you can watch Detroit's own WHPR on your TV from anywhere in the world. No matter where you are, you can stay in the know with WHPR TV and Roku. You can get your easy-to-install Roku box from wherever you shop for your entertainment gear. Once your Roku box is connected to your TV and internet, go to the channel store on the home menu of the Roku box. Enter WHPR TV in the search engine and add it to your channels. That's it. That's all you need to get the best in entertainment, news, and talk, no matter where you are. Roku brings all of your favorites to your TV. Netflix, Hulu Plus, Crackle, HBO Go, and now WHPR TV, Detroit Live.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
WGPR Detroit HD3.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
And good morning. Welcome again. You are watching a very special edition to Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. And we are now joined by more esteemed panelists on Truth to Power today. And we have one person that's here that's been a regular on this station, on this show for seemed like almost as long as I've been doing Truth to Power. And he was one of my original co-hosts on the show that's been with this journey for about the last, roughly about 2 years, Norman?
Yeah, 2 years.
But this is Norman Clement, and Norman Clement is the president and the CEO of an organization called Detroit Change Initiative. Norman, as always, you always have an open invitation to be here on Truth to Power. Yeah. And joined by, next to him, is a young lady. This is her first time coming on the show with us today. Her name is Harriet Kamak, and she is also she is an activist. She's also a podcaster, and she is very, very insightful when it comes down to what's going on in the political world, as well as just with elected officials, with public servants, and she has a very, very great perspective of what's going on, not just in the state of Michigan, but also in Washington, D.C. And then we are also joined by a young lady who I've known for ever, seems like. We've traveled all over the country and went and knocked on doors down in Atlanta, Macon, and other places in Georgia when we were trying to let people know about the special election that was going on down in Georgia when they were voting for people that were running for, I think it was Ossoff and Warnock, when they were running for the Senate race down in Georgia. And we had to knock on doors and let the people know in those respective communities that there was a special election that was going to be held in January of that year, and we were letting people know that they had to be registered to vote a month before that. And there were a lot of people that did not know that. And the interesting part about it was that we were going into communities that people still saw where they had Hillary Clinton literature on their doors. And this was years after that election. And nobody would go around there. Nobody would go down there and knock on the doors. Nobody would tell them that there was another election. And some people only voted just in the presidential elections. So we're joined by the young lady. Her name is Jacinda Cason. Jacinda is the, I don't want to say a title because I don't want to disrespect or misrepresent the title that you have. So Jacinda, I'll just let you tell our viewing audience with Black Voters Matter, correct?
Correct.
And your title there with Black Voters Matter.
My title is State Organizing Manager.
And what does that mean when you say State Organizing Manager?
So the State Organizing Manager means that I am the point person on the ground in the state of Michigan for all things Black Voters Matter. All things Black Voters Matter comes through me, whether it's organizing, whether it's funding, whether it's convening. I am that point person here in Michigan, as well as my colleague that is not here, Dion Davison.
Well, you've been doing this for a long time, haven't you?
I have. In my many roles, I have been a funder for organizations across the state of Michigan, civic engaged nonprofits, as well as Black-led organizations across the state of Michigan. And I stepped into this role so that I can be unapologetically Black in this space.
What does that mean when you say it? I'll ask the three of you. What does that mean when you say the words unapologetically Black?
So in my other funding roles, as a good steward of money, I had to make sure that money specifically went to civic engaged organizations across the state of Michigan, no matter their ethnicity or race. I stepped into the role of Black Voters Matter so I can specifically focus in on Black communities, the communities that are near and dear to my heart. And so when I say unapologetically Black, I mean I can direct all of the funding to Black nonprofits led in the state of Michigan, as well as try to capture funding dollars specifically and give them to my Black organizations. So when I say unapologetically Black, I say it with my full chest, and I try to represent that in the funding model that I give to my partners.
Norman?
I mean, as it says, it is, you be Black Dynamite. I mean, you be your authentic self. You're talking to those folks on the ground. You can be there having engagement with neighborhood groups, organizations, school districts that serve Black children. And also not also be comfortable in your space, not be uncomfortable for making someone else uncomfortable in your space. Also, having those honest conversations from the Black community and the Black perspective. Also, respecting the community around there. Also, so that's what I mean, be unapologetically Black. I mean, being your natural self, and also hearing those uncomfortable conversations, the uncomfortable feedback from our community.
Harriet, did you want to chime in?
Well, I think that in today's world, we must focus on the struggle never ends. I mean, we have different parts of the struggle. I listened to the earlier pundits who were talking about Juneteenth and the succession rate and how we have progressed from 1865, 1867 to now. And just listening to that, I recognize that the more things change is the more they remain the same. We took such a leap forward, but now we're facing this pushback with the Voting Rights Act that was recently amended by the Supreme Court. So now we have to really focus on what it means to be Black and unapologetically Black. I'm somebody from the Caribbean who originated from the Caribbean. So listening to the previous pundits talk about the ancestral reign from Cuba and so on, I am that person. I have ancestors from Cuba as well as from Jamaica and as well as from other parts of the world. So all of us who are in this space, we must now come forward and say what it means to be Black. We had a Black president. How much did it really change anything? How much of that has changed? You see what I mean? And I think going forward, especially for the younger generation, in America now, our population is so much more diverse. I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of, is the diversity that is represented amongst the younger generation. I think what we need to do is to define that, have a clear definition, and have our talking points and make moves on those talking points. Don't just sit down and talk about it, be about it, as the young kids would say.
And that makes a big difference, because it's like right now, what do you think is the main thing that really, because I was at an event that Summer had yesterday with her Women's Commission, and I was talking to a lady and I asked her, was she registered to vote? And she said she didn't know. And I was kind of looking at her a little puzzled, like, what do you mean you don't know if you're registered to vote or not? And she said, Mr. Griffin, because I really just don't know. So I had to kind of ask her, when was the last time you voted? And she said to me, for Obama. And, I was like, that's been 4 presidential terms ago. So we're talking about each term being 4 years. That's almost 16 years ago when she voted last. So as you know, Jacinda, we've done so much with you with Detroit Downriver APRI with trying to make certain that people do understand about them being purged from the voting rolls. If they haven't voted in a couple of consecutive voting cycles. And she didn't know these things. And then the other thing that some people didn't understand too was that if you are registered to vote, you're registered to vote once you get your driver's license or your state ID. And Norman, you know about that.
Yeah, and once you get it, you have to opt out of the system. The thing is that with your friend downriver, if she didn't vote in 16 years, she's probably off the voting rolls. She pretty much is off the voting rolls. And especially right now, what's happening with the Supreme Court, what's happening with the Trump DOJ, the new person in charge is demanding the voting rolls for Wayne County for 2024. In the past, we have voted for 15%, 17%, and we know of ourselves, we are more than 13 million more. We know 13 million Black folks in America is not that number. We know, all of us know 10 Black folks that did not do the census. And so this is the time that we need to start voting in the majority, because this is what's happened. This is the browning of America. This is the fear factor.
What do you mean when you say the browning of America?
What do you mean right now? By 2030, white men will be the minority. Probably already right now.
Mm-hmm.
White people are the minority, especially under the age of 18.
Mm-hmm. And they also fluff their numbers as well by adding other ethnicities into their numbers that does not represent their true ethnicity.
And that is so true.
Yep.
Because I'm jumping all over this because I have issues with it, because the browning of America is really true. The real statistics are that the white majority will become the minority, and the other ethnicities, black and Hispanic, will become a minority majority by 2050. Now, originally those were the estimates. But after 2020, they realized that has now moved up to 2030. We're in 2026, so that's 4 years away. So if you wonder why people are getting deported, why people are being picked up, why people are disappearing, it's because of that fear factor, Norman, that you know that we're all, we know they're afraid of. That is what they're really afraid of. They're afraid of our numbers because we will now become the majority. And two minority major groups will be. And as Jacinda said, they do fluff their numbers. We know that from history, don't we? Mm-hmm. That's what they did. Remember, it was just pure white were from England, Scotland, and Wales, right?
Yep.
And then as people from Eastern Europe came, they added them to their numbers. So they keep adding other ethnicities into the numbers to make it seem like that. America, we have a problem, and we need to confront our racism problem and deal with it, because the real truth of the matter is that the economic power, the reason this country is a power, is because the ancestors, my ancestors, your ancestors, black people, the power was built on the back of black people. And it's time for us not just to be represented in there, but it's time for us to have the economic power. And this foolishness where they're constantly coming at us needs to stop. Stop attacking our rights. Stop attacking our right to vote. Stop attacking our rights to live. Stop it, because if it had not been for 250 years of free labor by black people, this country would not have any money. The statistics are that this country became an economic power since 1871. Who did we have as the economic power in 1871? My ancestors, your ancestors, who were picking cotton in the South. That's what made America great. So you want to make America great again? Go make America great again by paying attention to black people and stop eliminating the barriers that exist today.
And that's absolutely correct, because those numbers.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, y'all.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Because those numbers are. I think in 2020, remember, the census got cut off. Because those numbers were looking like, oh my God. Remember, they added Palestinian folks that are from Syria, Lebanon, Northern Africa, parts of Chad. If you're from Ibiza, or you're also from parts of South America, they label you as white.
Mm-hmm. You also remember, Norman, that during the census period, at that time, I was a census manager for the city of Detroit. That administration, the Trump administration, cut the time to collect the enumerations for the census as well.
Mm-hmm. And so they cut the time because probably they looked at those numbers. It says, oh boy, we're shrinking fast. Might have been 2020, 30. Actually, it was 2020 that they realized we're no longer the majority.
So I have some context for that. So I'm going to take it back to 2018. My daughter was in law school, right? And she was in law school in Northwest Indiana. I'm not going to name the school. The school was closing because the population density had decreased. Northwest Indiana, not far from here, 250 miles from here. So because she had to switch law schools to come back home to Detroit and to get her enrolled in Detroit Mercy, I had a conversation with the president of the law school of that college, and he told me something that I've never forgotten. He said, "Ma'am, we're on different sides of the spectrum, but we're still American." And he said this. He said, the reason that this is 2018. He said, the reason that you're seeing the policies that you're seeing now, and it is only going to get worse, is because the numbers are indicating that the brown population will take over the white population. And that in Texas, California, Florida, those 3 states will control, there will be mostly brown people. That is why he said that you're seeing no investment in education, because the numbers tell them that there will be more brown students than there will be white students. And he said that's why our college is closing, because the numbers, the population numbers, there are not enough white people to come into to college. Can you believe that? That was in 2018. This is said by a white man who was the dean of the law school. Are you hearing me, you guys? So they have the numbers. And if we all remember what was happening in 2018, we know who was president. So we know what they were doing. So they intend, as you said, Norman, when they look at the numbers and they saw what Jacinda, just as Jacinda said, they had to cut off the numbering and the census collection, the data collection in 2020 because they were scared. And if we are not aggressive, if we're not electing officials, and I hope the Democratic Party and all of you who like to sit down and drink and cocktail and all that stuff, I hope you're really listening to what is going on, because if they don't do a good job of following through on policies that benefit the voting group who exists today, not what you want it to be, Lily White or whatever, but the actual numbers who exist. If you don't do that, we've lost the game.
I want to jump in here and also mention that I have been part of conversations, as well as Norman has been part of conversations, as well as my funding structure this year is really getting back to the basics of talking to community members. Because unfortunately the word vote is transactional. Okay? People do not understand. Like your friend, she has not voted since Obama.
Well, this wasn't my friend.
Okay,
this was somebody that came.
Okay, let me get that correct. That was not my friend, because all my friends are voting people. Heard. But the individuals are not invested anymore in this system because they don't understand the hope, right? And so my funding structure is literally funding my partners to get in the community and just have a conversation about what are they scared of, what issues are impacting their lives right now that they are concerned about. Not even talking about voting, because once you can identify those, you can then come back and identify the policies that are attached to those concerns, and then you can identify the offices that are being ran for right now that can impact their lives. Now you have them invested. Now they're not in despair and anger, but actually can see hope again. And so now it's not transactional, because you're trying to get them back invested in the voting program now.
Yep, and then there's an old playbook that they keep using since, I think after Obama 2020. I think that's why Democratic Party, a lot of folks are mad at the national MDP and also the National Democratic Party, is that there was a breakdown, the synopsis of why they lost. And it was not just about Palestine. It was about a list of things of what people were mad about the party, how the money was spent. It was an autopsy. And sometimes you do an autopsy, you look at it as, okay, how could we get better? And release it to the community and see what went wrong. They decide to hold on to it. And as of right now, that is the most dangerous thing, because it's going to come out. But at the same time, you have the same policy folks, you have the same consultants, you have the same organizations that have been there for 16 or 17 or 18 years, or since the party, or 20, 30 years. And anytime someone's been there for that long, that steady, that stagnant, and them same procedures go out,
The same playbook.
People are saying, hey, that playbook is wrong. And more than ever now, that's why the voice was on the crowd at the convention. People were upset and lively because, hey, it's wrong. It's not working. But yet, they're still going to that playbook. And I think, even with the great coach, Bill Belichick, was the Patriots for 20 years, and to the point where even him, it was time to go. I think the Democratic Party has to understand, your old consultants, your old base, the folks you talked to back then, how to win the party. I love George Carville, but at the same time, this ain't the same as it was back in the 80s and 90s. Right. It's a different day, different tactics. And so what are you doing now to target organizations? What are you doing now to bring relationship building in the party and let the folks know how are we better than others. Because right now, people always say, and it was just a mistake to say, oh, they're both the same. No, you're not the same. You got to advertise why you're not the same.
Well, I was waiting on you to say, because the messaging from the Democratic Party, I have been very vocal about that as a citizen and as a voter, as a member of the community, and as an American. I think that the Democratic Party does not listen. They're tone deaf. They're not listening to their voters. I've talked about this endlessly, about these legacy consultants who matriculate from one generation to the other and simply pass on their playbook. And they're not engaging and listening to the voters on the ground. So people are literally tuned out. Younger people, Generation Z, millennials, and of course, we know they're not paying attention to Generation Alpha, who will be voting in 2028. So they're not listening to younger people to understand what their concerns are, their concerns are they can't buy a house in today's America. They grew up watching their grandparents buy a house. They can't buy a house no matter how much they work, the high cost of living. They want to see LGBTQ rights being enshrined in the Constitution, reproductive freedoms being enshrined in the Constitution, change the number of people on the Supreme Court. They have a whole list of demands, but the Democratic Party is not listening. So if you have one party over here who is always furthering their interests, that is one thing the GOP is good at. What they say they're going to do, Project 25, they said they were going to do it, they will do it. So they satisfy their base. They do what they say they're going to do. But the Democratic Party does not do that. They don't listen to what we say. They don't listen to their voters. And so young people are saying, so what am I going to do? I have one party in power who is not doing anything but are only interested in the billionaires and providing tax relief to billionaires, but you are not providing tax relief to me, who is paying for this country to get run. And you have the Democratic Party who is sitting there and they're completely tone deaf. Now we need them to know, and they better get their act together, especially here, Norman, especially here, Jacinda, in this state. For the midterms that are coming up, they better get their act together before August for that primary.
We are definitely working on a strategy, and hopefully our strategy works for the city of Detroit, if so it can be replicated across the state of Michigan. So we are in conversations right now. One thing that both of you all talked about is the consultants. During the last presidency, we had black press literally vocal saying that the Republican Party is trying to run ads through our newspaper, through our radio, through our television, and we're rejecting it to our detriment because we need this money. Where's the Democratic Party? Not investing in black media, not investing in no type of black outlet, but the Republican Party was, because they understood that playbook. They specifically invested in Hispanic radio, because they knew a lot of their people were laborers, and that they was listening to the radio while they were laboring, and that's how they got their message across to them. You know, and so we do have to change strategies, or well, not me, because I'm not part of the Democratic machine, but the Democratic Party has to change their strategies when it comes to outreach to the base. You know, and I do want to clarify, the Republican Party is not satisfying their base, they're satisfying their funders. Okay? Because their base voted for this stuff without understanding exactly what they're voting for. Hence, indivisible right now. Hence, all the other things that's happening right now.
Great point. We're going to be right back. I've got Jacinda, I've got Harriet, I've got Norman. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin. So stay tuned. We're going to delve deeper into this conversation, especially with the different parties and how they're structured. Stay tuned.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. If you're behind on your property taxes, we have programs to help. You don't have to lose your house, and you don't have to pay all at once. This summer, our mobile unit will be visiting Wayne County communities to help make it easier to start a payment plan and keep your property. Go online or call to find the plan that's right for you and where you can get help from our mobile unit. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to foreclosure. Make your payments every month and keep your property.
Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
If you enjoyed the music, the talk, and the vibe right here on WHPR, we need your support. Help us keep independent radio alive by sending a Cash App donation of whatever you can to $WHPR TV Radio. Every dollar makes a difference. That's $WHPR TV Radio. Support the station that supports you.
Justice for Mario Willis. Truth. Facts. Evidence. Mattered. Log into justiceformariowillis.com. Read for yourself.
Clean up on aisle 5. Sounds like my life right now. Just one big mess.
What's going on?
It's my property taxes.
What?
I am behind and I am so worried that I'm going to lose my house. I can pay some of it, but I can't pay it all at once.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Eric Sabri, the Wayne County Treasurer. The last thing I want is for anyone to lose their property to tax foreclosure. We have assistance programs to help.
For more information, go to treasurer.waynecounty.com.
We're here to help.
All media platforms are engaged.
Copy.
Get ready to launch your show or product.
Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that.
Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV.
To the I Love the Hustle show, Saturday afternoons at 12 p.m., followed by Mr. Smooth's Ballroom and Steppers Express dance show on WHPR 15.2 Detroit, Apple TV, Roku, and many streaming platforms. See you Saturday.
313watkins.com. Streaming on Roku.
And good morning, and welcome again to a special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are joined by Norman Clement, Detroit Change Initiative, Jacinda Cason with Black Voters Matter, and then Harriet. Now, you have a book that you have written. Can you tell our viewing audience about your book that you've written?
Well, I am an author and a podcast host. My podcast, The Faith Hour, is heard on Spotify and Google and Apple Podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And we talk about faith and its impacts on our lives. But my books have focused on ending violence against women. My first book, Through the Fire, was written some years ago, in which we talked about my own experiences. And my latest book, After the Fire, in which we address family violence and how families often contribute to violence against women, either together or they set the environment for it. My books are available on Amazon.com, so you can go to Amazon.com and put my name in the search engine, Harriet Kamak, and you will find a plethora of information about what my books are.
Use my word, plethora. Well, we want to make certain that people support, just like with Anthony Brogan this morning, to support our books.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've been writing a book for the last 10 years, but, I really respect you, Harriet, respect Anthony, and anybody else that is an author for books that they have written, or like me, soon to write. But that's the key thing, is that we need to put our information down on paper so that people can read it for eons and eons to come.
Amen.
We talk about the Democratic Party. We talk about the Republican Party. We talk about the Independent Party. Now, we know that there was some strategies that people did in this election to run for governor. And we know that there was a lot of conversation about why people ran as a Democrat, as a Republican, and as an independent. Let's kind of do a deep dive into that in terms of, say, with any predictions that any of you have about the upcoming election in November and the outcome, like who's going to be in the election in November, and then who do you think will come out victorious in that election in November. And let's delve into the gubernatorial race, the Senate race, Secretary of State, as well as the Attorney General races.
Yeah, I think right now those races, the Secretary of State, Garland Gilchrist, very popular lieutenant governor. He was at time running for Democratic governor of Michigan. And so he's just going to be popular in that race. He's probably going to lead that whole ticket, I believe, of the Democratic Party. Also on top of that, we're waiting to see who's going to be officially on the ballot for congressional seats, especially in 13 and 12. Also, who's going to be state senators, state reps, because, people have to turn their signatures in there. And, there are some people who jumped in the race who are in there that are questionable right now. And so that's going to be, especially in 13. And, right now, Darwin, there is a internal fight with the Democratic side. There's no reason why their Democrats are like that 25%, because right now a lot of that complaint is coming from the in-house. It's coming from in-house. It's coming from in-house from the younger generation. And a lot of people, I think, look back at 23 and 24, where they went along to get along and was quiet about a lot of things that they did not like. And I think the temperature is so hot and the stakes are on the line with losing our voting rights in Section 2 to right now people are demanding for your rights. We got a Republican trifecta. We're at war. Gas is probably going to be $7 by the summer. We don't know what's going on. The young folks are not waiting to say, okay, we'll wait this out. We'll trust our elders. And they're going to question everything you do right now, because if it's wrong, they're going to call it out. If it's right, they're going to applaud you for it. But if it's wrong, you're going to hear it loud and clear. And that's what it is right now. People have to, whoever's going to gain the trust of the people are going to win right now. I think 12 with congressional seat, Rashida's probably the most trustworthy, because at the end of the day, the uncommitted vote happened, but also we can't blame her for the loss of Michigan, because 500,000 black folks did not vote. And that was a big uncommitted to the party's vision of what was going on, the outreach was going on. And so we have to delve in that part. And I think scope-wise that organizations, MDP, in Michigan, we can't lay the blame on one thing or this thing. We have to do an internal part. That's lazy that we're blaming somebody. The work has to be done.
I'm going to jump in right there.
Yep.
I'm going to take my black voters hat off, and I'm going to put on my Jacinda Kason hat. And I'm going to have to disagree with you about the uncommitted vote. I love Rashida Tlaib to death. But as we work towards collective liberation, we know that with every ethnic group, we're going to have people that don't come out to vote. And so when we're talking about collective collaboration and coalition, you have to rally your base that you know that will come out to vote. And so to say that a whole group is not going to come out to vote because of this one issue, I think that's lazy. because we have to depend on our base across all of our coalitions to come out to vote, because we already know that
Right.
we just don't come out to vote as a black people in mass like we should. And we depend on every progressive group, literally depends on the high propensity voters.
Right.
Period. Across the board. And so when a whole group of people are voting on one issue, that's almost like ADOS and FBA that said don't come out to vote unless reparations. That is a single issue that some people did not come out to vote, but our high propensity voters came out to vote. And so although I love Rashida, and at the end she did come around, at the end it was too late because
Right.
it was a whole year of committing to the uncommitted
But
vote.
that's what we'll talk about. Is like the uncommitted vote for all year. The MDP, we did not do a job to speak on that. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we're talking about that.
So how can the MDP, what should they do to appeal to the uncommitted?
That means you have to. That's what we have to do, is have those uncomfortable conversations about Palestine, and also to those Palestinians that did not vote, the uncommitted. Black folks have been voting for people they did not like for years, and this is a hard conversation. And I've got to say it. It's not just about you. We voted for folks that we did not like because guess what?
We voted for people every election that we did not like. The only time that we had the opportunity to vote for somebody we liked was for Barack Obama.
Absolutely. Period. And so on that time, we're talking about who does the least harm to our people and to our people abroad. Because guess what? If I didn't vote a certain type of way, if I didn't vote for, at the time, my first vote was Bill Clinton, I know my folks over there in Africa wouldn't get the food they need to survive in Somalia or what's going on in Kosovo. And so sometimes I get the vote to help to save them overseas. At the time, I understand you didn't like the vote, but understand your vote helps out Gaza for the right party, for the right person. And that's the part that we know as black folks. You have to be unselfish to that. You have to understand it's bigger than you. It's always bigger than you.
I think that's a very good conversation that we need to have, because a lot of ethnic groups are now in America, and a lot of it, and have always been. It's part of the American diaspora. It's part of the fabric that makes America great, really. So, but I think we need to be mindful of this one fact. I think all ethnic groups should follow where black people vote, because at the end of the day, they divide the society along the lines of white or appearance of white and black. So I think a lot of ethnic groups, while we all respect your positions, I'm from the Caribbean, and they're currently blowing up people's boats in the Caribbean. But at the same time, you're not going to find me vote against or stay away from voting, knowing that the bigger picture is that I have to vote for the candidate who, as Norman says, does the least harm. So within the Michigan Democratic Party, I'm appealing to all of you who come from, we all have family members in other parts. I see where our brothers and sisters from Lebanon are pursuing a case against the government because they have lost homes there. I want to entreat you to remember when you go to vote that you think of the bigger picture. Who is most likely, which candidate is most likely to do the least harm, not just to us here, but to our friends and family abroad? And I think that's what we need to do. So the Michigan Democratic Party, you have some work to do to excavate. You have some work to do in this community across this state of Michigan. And I am appealing to you to start listening to your younger voters. Stop using the consultants who are 45 and over and who are 65 and over. Get some young people on there, because young people are very frank. Have you gone to TikTok lately? And hear what young people are saying? Listen to them and talk to them, engage them, because each young person influences at least 100 other young people. So when you talk and you say the policies that will affect them, they're concerned about Palestine. They're concerned about what's happening in Gaza, because they think that that is representative of what could happen here. If they go back to redlining here and telling us we can only live in certain enclaves, they think the same people who create the policies in Palestine and Gaza that is bad to folks there will do it here. That's how young people think. So young people are kind of pulling the rest of us along. I'm a Gen Xer. So they're pulling us along and showing us a global mindset. So for those who live here, I hope you're watching, our friends in Dearborn and in other communities. I'm entreating you to look at the big picture. This is very important.
Mm-hmm. And coming up to that right there, we got two candidates on the governor's side that we really have to look at. And it is going to be interesting. And also we're looking at our Attorney General. That's going to be very interesting. So we'll see what's going to happen. I mean,
well, what do you think? You know, I'm asking you guys because you guys obviously you guys have collectively spent more years at this, and in professional settings at this. You guys are the professionals. Why are you guys not on these programs? On the major channels, on legacy media talking. You guys know more about what the voters want and how public policy and the intersection of public policy and people and politicians work. Why are you guys not there?
Because I'm not part of the machine.
Because you're not part of the machine. So the machinery needs to change. You know what? I heard Rashida Tlaib say something. It's the one thing she has said in the last 3 years that has moved me. And she says, these need to be people-powered movements. And the people are requesting the power to put people like you guys out in front to represent the community and to represent our voices. You see what I'm saying, Darwin?
Well, you know, that's the one thing, too. Just like with Norman, we've had this conversation many times before, because the fact is that are they funding, especially the nonprofits, to get out there and do some of the work that needs to be done? And they're pulling back funding for some of the organizations like yours that want to put people on the doors, knocking on doors, putting literature, drop literature, and they want to do these things, but you guys need to pay your people to get out there and do some of these things.
And I do want to pull back on just the dropping of the literature, because we all know that Detroit has a high illiteracy rate.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we do drop it on the doors, they might read it, but they can't comprehend what they're reading.
Absolutely.
Hence, we might have a negative ballot initiative because they collected enough signatures to be on the ballot, but if you read it and can't comprehend what you were signing, it will be on the ballot in November.
Wow. So one of the things then, how we fix that going forward, and we can start this right here in Michigan, is universal adult suffrage. So automatically when people turn 18, they are what? They're born in the United States. The minute that they're born, as soon as they turn 18, if we can draft people at 18 and draft young men at 18, we can put universal adult suffrage on the ballot. That would eliminate that. So they're automatically registered to vote, and so it would be easier now to just watch ads on screens that tell them how we want them to vote. So we can now develop messaging around that. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but it's one thing is messaging too, but also the ad piece is that the traditional ad spaces where the TV, where we know the traditional legacy media, youth don't watch that anymore.
No. We use what they watch. Bring it to TikTok. Bring it to the screen in front of them, which is the one in their hands.
But wait a minute, we can't depend on TikTok because TikTok got bought by the right wing.
But at the same time, though, we still have young people, regardless of though it was bought by the Ellison Group and the right wing, young people are still on it. They still use it. The consciousness that we need to have, our generation, except you look like you just turned 30, right? Right? But the consciousness we need to have is that our voices are not resonating as much with the younger people. What resonates is the thing in their hand, the phone in their hand. But that's the most powerful communication tool.
That is a powerful communication tool. But also, I think with young people today, they want relationship building. They want that. When we work with young people in the schools all the time, if you're there with them, showing them every day, they see you every day as a trusted partner, and you're bringing them in to do the door knocking or do events where they passing out literature at their homecoming games, at their school games, their rallies, they're passing out literature, get out the vote, working with their teachers on civic engagement or social studies. That right there, that partnership or volunteering your time at a school district or a school, education outreach, that is more valuable because guess what? You create organizers right there. They talk to you, they talk to you every day, and they encourage their family members. That family member that does not vote, they encourage them to vote.
We just had our annual Coalition Capital Day on Wednesday, and we literally brought over 200 students from across the state of Michigan. That number could have easily been 1,000. Easily. I had to tell school districts that I just did not have the capacity to bring all of their students from Muskegon, from Kalamazoo, from Benton Harbor, from Detroit. You know, I did not have the capacity to do so, but these kids are yearning to be engaged. And so to also invest in that, like Norman and Darwin said, is something that we have to, they want that in person.
They want
as
relationships.
well as, like you said, TikTok, but they also want to be in person because they want to feel like they're invested in the change.
So you heard that Michigan Democratic Party, they want relationship.
So now, let's go back to the voting part, because I know we talked about that earlier in my previous segment about 17% in some communities. This midterm election is really not one to garner like 40+% of the people to get out and vote.
We have to change that.
What do we do? That's what I'm going to ask each of you. What do we need to do to change that?
I think all organizations, all hands on deck to get out there, education from the aspect of using the after school programs, for summer programs, to being out in the street in the community, being at every community event, at every barbecue event. If I'm MDP right now, every local thing that's going on around kids, around organization, youth development, around, I will go to the city of Detroit and find out who has every doggone family reunion all the way down for this summer reserve, and I will pack somebody there and organize and get around there to have a sheet up right there about the Democratic Party. As a strategist, that's all I'll do. I could talk about last year when a partner of ours, a Journey Faith Group, when she did outreach on Halloween. And when she did that outreach on Halloween, going door to door, saying, hey, trick or treat, remember, reminding me to vote, her rate was so high of contact. People said, oh, I got to drop my stuff off in the mail. That's the type of outside thinking that you have to do around this community activism right now. That's the outside thinking of everything going on. Juneteenth, you're supposed to be at every Juneteenth event going on, but beyond that. Everything going on 4th of July. All the programs are going on, the practices. You could organize everything going on in this city of Detroit, all around the state, and organize and be there. Have an advocate. You talk to those folks. Because if you're there in person, it's one thing to listen to somebody on YouTube. If I'm there, see me every single day, and I'm vibing with you and talking to you, talking about right and how to vote and how to vote strategically that affects you, that matters.
I also want to say something that Norman touched on, is that we know as Black people, no matter if you're Black here from the diaspora, that we are communal people, which means that you got to continuously touch us. You got to continuously reach out to us before we even start paying attention to you. Before we like, oh, they must be saying something that's important because they keep trying to tell me the same thing. And that's how you become a trusted messenger. And that's one thing that we need to get back to doing. It's not just coming around doing get out the vote season, but being invested 365 days of the year of continual communication so that people understand what's going on. We still have people that don't know that you don't need an ID to vote in the state of Michigan.
Right.
We still have people that don't know that if you are a convicted felon that you can vote in Michigan. We still don't even know that if you are 16 years old in the state of Michigan, you can pre-register to vote so that as soon as you're 18, you can be on the voting rolls. And so we have such expansive voting laws here in Michigan that have passed all the way back to 2018 that people are not even aware of. And we almost, 8 years in now.
Mm-hmm.
And they still don't know information. Same day, no excuse, voter registration.
Right.
No excuse, absentee ballot. You know, this is education that requires 365-day continual information to get into our community, because just one time ain't gonna do it.
Right.
Just because we have one win don't mean that information got down to the person that's on the line working 18-hour shifts because that overtime money is good, or because the mama got 2 jobs and trying to take care of her kids.
Right.
That information is not disseminating to them.
Yeah,
That's why you have people on the ground
Yeah.
that always are trying to get funding to try to get this information out. And this should not be carried on by single organizers or nonprofits. This is a bigger investment that does need to come from the Michigan Democratic Party.
Absolutely.
And I second that.
Well, you know, and that's the thing, that we have to have the same kind of passion like what the three of you have to make certain that people are educated. Because it's sad, we don't have civics in the schools. People don't understand the differences between this election and the presidential election coming up in 2028. Don't know the 3 branches of government. Don't know in terms of, say, about when you say POTUS, they don't understand what that acronym stands for. Don't know what SCOTUS, that acronym, what that stands for when you talk about the Supreme Court of the United States, the President of the United States, even the First Lady, the FLOTUS, the First Lady of. And those are terms that a lot of people don't understand. But at the same time, people don't understand why it's important to vote in every election.
Yeah.
Don't just wait for the presidential election. Vote every election. Because even these midterm elections, even the local elections, those are individuals that need your support. And what people do is they wait till, as you all know, they wait till the general election to cast the ballot.
And
Now
the
we do-
policy in the state and in your communities are determined by the local elections.
Exactly.
So the messaging, you guys are right on the money. The messaging has to come from the local party, the Michigan Democratic Party. What exactly are they doing to get out the vote? This has to be a relentless, all year long thing. As you're saying right here, my sister, I'm going to hug her, because it cannot just be it's transactional, get out the vote because there's an election here. We have to tell people why it matters. Because the literacy rate is lower does not mean that people are not watching screens. The literacy rate is concerning. Civics has been taken out of schools because, again, these were determined at the local level by local politicians. So we do need to do this on an ongoing basis. Hit the kids with every media. There needs to be billboards everywhere. There needs to be flyers everywhere. It needs to appear on their social media feeds as they're scrolling through Instagram and the variety of social media apps that they use, because that's what they trust. Young people are verified. They believe in virtual media more than they believe in you and I standing in front of them. And we need to accept that.
I do want to also mention that I do want to step back a little bit, because young people do come out to vote when they feel like something is impacting them in the midterm and general election.
Yes, they do.
The draft.
If it was not for the young people, reproductive freedom and all for all would not have passed.
Right.
If it was not for the young people, we would not have had the reparations on the ballot here in Detroit. If it was not for the young people, the decriminalization of marijuana would not have. So they pay attention when they want to pay attention, but we need to make them pay attention all year round.
All year round.
Exactly.
How do we engage them? And we engage them by having younger people among us. So the next time, Darwin, take me off. I'm a Gen Xer. I vote. I say my piece. You can basically predict what I'm going to do or who I'm going to vote for, right? Because I'm going to vote along the party lines, what's good for the party. Get younger people so that we can hear what they're thinking and tell them these talking points, reiterate it to them so that when they go back among their friend groups that they can repeat it. That's what we do. And the Michigan Democratic Party, I'm so disappointed in you because you keep doing this legacy consultants BS that is not working. Oops, did I say that? The FCC coming for you guys. But this legacy consultants
well, we got Henry Tyler
to edit that out, right? But this legacy consultants, it's got to go. We need, if you're going to consult, you need younger people that represent the diaspora. It can't just be that their grandparents were consultants, so they're now reaping what their grandparents sowed, or we know them because they come from this consulting group and we know their family and we know their friends. This needs to stop. Okay, and we need to do that, and we need to have fresh faces, fresh voices. We will have a new Attorney General. Eli Savage is coming forward. I think he'll be great, but I also think you need to hear Karen McDonald because she has name recognition. I don't know that we have the best candidate for governor. We want an all-inclusive candidate for governor. And as you can see, the Senate race is going to be, it's already clearly where it's going to go because they have come against Molly McMorrow. That's just because they recognize that she could have been the runaway winner and they have come against her. So we need to pay attention. Who do young people want to vote? I asked them. And you know what they come back and say to me when I ask them? They say, we want the candidate who's going to best represent all our interests to keep us safe and to keep our freedoms here in the state of Michigan safe. And I said, well, who do you think that would be? You're not going to believe what they said. Are you ready?
Just real quick, because we got to wrap up.
Swanson.
Chris Swanson.
That's what they said.
Okay.
That's crazy.
That's not crazy. That's interesting.
Because that's not what the
interesting.
MDP is pushing forward.
Yeah.
Now, we got to wrap up real quick, so I just want to give your contact information real quick.
Norman Clement, you reach me at info@dcimovement.org. On May 16th, we're having a warrant clinic at Adam Butzel from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On that same day, there is a open candidates forum with Swanson and also with Benson at the Church of Messiah in Gun Violence, Michigan.
Jacinda?
My name is Jacinda Cason. You can reach me at Jacinda, JACINDA, at blackvotersmatterfund.org.
I'm Harriet Kamek. You can find me on Facebook and a plethora of social media. I look the same, by the way.
And I'm Darwin Griffin, and I do want to say again, thank you. This was a very, very, very good conversation with Harriet Kamek, Jacinda Cason, Norman Clement. I want to thank the guests that I had on the first segment, Alexis Ramsey, Anthony Brogdon, Quentin Lott, Summer Moore Crawford. I'm Darwin Griffin, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in. You have been watching Truth to Power. And I do want to say this too. Thank you to our general manager here at the station, Ms. Maxine Willis. You are the glue that keeps us all together. So thank you again for coming in. Thank you to R.J. Watkins. Thank you to Watkins Broadcasting. Stay tuned because Black media is here to stay. Stay tuned.